This is Resolute and the Resolute Leadership Podcast. I'm Vince Miller, your founder and host, and today we're looking at the topic of integrity. So men, welcome back to the program. If this is your very first time tuning in, well, thank you for joining us. Our mission at Resolute is to disciple and to develop men to lead. So if you're looking for content for, say, a men's group or a men's ministry, then you need to go to our website today at beresolute.org. That's beresolute.org, because we have numerous great tools for men who are leading other men, including some great new small group series that would be awesome for your guys. You've got to check out the 9 attributes of a man of God. It is totally worth your time. Great content from God's Word and great conversation for men. But now, gentlemen, let's dive in. Well, today I'm joined by a good friend, Bill Derrick, who is part of Derrick Building Solutions, which began in 1967 when his dad created a proposal for his very first remodeling project. You know, this all started out of his little farmhouse, and today it's grown into this incredible business. And we are blessed to have Bill Derrick with us today. He's got some great lessons for us in leading a home building company, but also importing some principles into our everyday life as men and as leaders. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Vince. I'm glad to be here.
I know. I'm excited to have you for all kinds of reasons. Now, one of the things that I know that you know something about is integrity, right? Like, I know you know something about this because building homes is all about integrity, right? And people are always checking your integrity. So you have held to a principle in your business and in your personal life that you need to have integrity in all that you do. So can you describe for me today, Bill, what integrity looks like in your world as you lead your people and as you build commercial and residential homes with Derrick Builders?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of people automatically think of integrity as being honest. It's much more than that. To sum it up, I would basically say that it's doing what you say you're going to do, sometimes more, but never less. Sometimes it has to do with not so much what you do, it's the things that maybe you could decide not to do that your client would never notice and would save you money, but you say, no, that's not our way of doing things. We're about presenting to our client what we promised him. Treating employees is the same way. You tell them that you're going to provide them a great place to work. You're going to treat them like family. You have an obligation, if you're going to practice integrity, you have an obligation in everything you do with your employees to treat them that way. So employees and your clients, they all depend on you to act with integrity, if that is the culture of your business.
Yeah, so, you know, I think about home building, for example. There's a lot of places that you can cheat people and have and lack integrity, right? Because there's lots of places that I'd say clients or customers just don't see. In your business career, without naming any names, just describe to me places where people cheat themselves on their own integrity, places you've seen people lack integrity in their life.
That's a great question. From a business standpoint, in construction especially, we have the ability to use different grades of materials all the time.
Yeah.
And when they come to Derrick Custom Homes, they know, or at least assume, that they are getting the top of the line. And we have to provide that. We don't bait and switch.
Right.
When you're dealing with people, you make a commitment to someone. Hey, I will commit that I will be there on this day to listen to you or to talk to you.
Yeah.
You don't call them up a day ahead of time or the next morning and say, hey, sorry, something come up.
Yeah.
I can't make it.
Right.
No, you've made a commitment. And I think it's a responsibility if you're practicing integrity to be there.
Yeah. It's funny, but it really, integrity is one of those very challenging things that test us personally, right? Mm-hmm. They test us personally with people. They test us personally with the things that we're selling other people. You have experienced, especially with Derrick Builders, that there's all these places that you can lack integrity, but people sniff that stuff out, don't they? I mean, can't you say that in all the years that you've done business, in the decades of business that you've done, that once in a while people find out about those things, and those things do impact the character of your company, the kind of the quality of home that you built. You've chosen not to walk down that path, but there's many people that do, right?
Yes, and I would just add that not to sound perfect.
Right.
Because we are human. We do make mistakes.
Right.
But I will tell you, when a client emails us or calls us and says, I have a problem, and even if we feel that maybe they're a little off base in their complaint, we just don't blow it off and say, tough. We feel obligated to take care of the situation so that our client is happy in the end. And I think that that's the way I try to take care of my life, whether it's business or personal. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's a culture thing, not just in business, but also in my personal life. Yeah,
and it emanates probably from our personal convictions, right? And how we're going to choose to live. I got to tell you, even when I was a young man, Bill, I'm not sure that I had a lot of integrity when I was younger. But then over time, you get caught. Mm-hmm. And you get found out, and people start to discover that you lack that, and then you have really a choice to make, right? You have a choice that you can either move in a new direction and find that integrity, find that balance, or you can choose to continue down the path, which just leads to personal harm for yourself. And so it is a culture, but it is to some degree an individual decision that you make, right, as well. So it's an individual decision that your company has made to say, hey, we're going to make mistakes, but we're going to resolve them. And we're going to resolve these mistakes even with integrity as well. I think about building, and I think building is the perfect metaphor for integrity, don't you think?
I would agree.
Because everything about building is about integrity, right? Everything about it, from, like you said, the materials that you use, to how you do the job, to the timeliness in how you do the job, to the employees that you hire that lead all those projects that do the job, to how you interact interpersonally with customers, right? Now, it doesn't just apply to building, but building is the perfect analogy, because if we turn to the parables of the foundations in the Bible from Jesus, we see that Jesus says you have choices on how you're going to build things. You got two types of houses with two types of foundations, one on the sand and one on the rock. You really can't see that one was built on the sand until everything is tested, right? And things get tested. And what you say, or what you're saying, I think, as it relates to customers calling you, or you showing up on time, or you using cheap materials, is that eventually something's going to get tested, and it's going to get tested by a storm. And what's being tested is not just your home. It's the choices, the personal choices you have made along the way. Would you say, Bill, that in all your years of being a part of an organization that builds homes, that your integrity has proven to improve over the years?
Yes, it has. And I would also add that using Matthew 27:4, for example, and I know that because you're talking my story now.
Yeah, right.
That going through the storm that our business went through, that integrity was tested.
Yeah, describe that a little bit.
Well, everybody knows that the economic downturn that happened was bad for a lot of people.
Right.
Some people would describe it as a 1 or 2 year thing. If you were in the construction and development business and had a lot of real estate like we did, it was a 5, 6, 7 year situation. And it truly tested us. And at the end, when you have a storm that lasts that long, you're going to find out what your foundation is built on.
Right. Now, I know you know this. I'm just speaking to the facts a little bit, but there were a lot of companies, construction companies during that time that chose to just bail out, chose to file for bankruptcy, chose to pass on their debt to the American customer, really. And you chose not to. That was a very hard decision, I know, but that was what you felt God was calling you to do. And because of that, it took you years to crawl out of that as well. So it sounds like to me that sometimes integrity has cost to it as well. It doesn't just have benefits, right?
Oh, no.
That make us look better to the customer. Sometimes it has cost for us. And what would you say some of the costs were for you just sticking the business out and having integrity and being faithful to your loans and what you owe the bank and what you owed customers? And how did that feel, and what were some of the choices that you made?
Well, we told the banks that we dealt with that it was our goal to pay them back one way or another. We just needed help in order to get to that point. We went into the recession with a lot of cash in our company. I would say we didn't necessarily know what we were going to do with that cash, but I believe it was God's way of providing for us. We used all that cash, plus more, to get through the recession.
Yeah.
That was a cost, a big cost, especially to us as owners. Myself, my brothers, my partners in business. We suffered a lot during that time financially in order to get through that. And then we've also suffered coming out of the recession in a couple of ways. Because of our decision, there was some opportunity costs.
Yeah.
So when things started getting better and there was opportunity to maybe buy additional real estate at low prices, we weren't in the buying mode because we were still trying to work our way out with our banks. If we would have cashed in our chips, so to speak, right up front and gotten through all that, then we would have been an opportunity to take advantage of that. So we had some opportunity loss there.
Yeah.
I would tell you we're still feeling it from the standpoint that we're trying to make things good. We're trying to be more responsible with what we do financially with our company.
Right.
Right. We learned the meaning of being in debt.
Right.
And being a slave to the people you're in debt to.
Yep.
And we didn't like that feeling.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's very challenging, isn't it? Integrity is far more complex, far more dynamic than we think it is. It has great benefits. It also has some costs as well. Here's a verse for our listeners today from Proverbs 10, verse 9. It says, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but he who makes his ways crooked will be found out." Isn't that interesting, right? It's like we really do have these choices to make, and I really do think the hard choice is integrity, right? It's to walk in that security of knowing, look, I did the right thing. Regardless of the consequences of doing the right thing, I chose to do it. And I know there's guys out there today that are probably facing some sort of choice right now, whether it be in their business, their home, their family, their marriage. They have a choice. They can live with integrity, right, and character, and choose to do the right thing or choose to not do the wrong thing, like you said, Bill. And there's going to be immediate benefits to it, but there also might be immediate costs. But here's the hope. Proverbs says, whoever walks with integrity walks securely. And we can have hope in that we've anchored ourselves in truth, right? At the expense of not doing the wrong thing, which we will then be found out eventually by ourselves and by other people, right? Any last words you'd like to share with our guys today just about integrity and some of the lessons you've learned?
Yeah, I maybe a little bit off the cuff, but I've been thinking about a benefit of integrity.
Yeah.
Is you'll have a lot more friends. I mean,
so true.
If you like being a loner, then don't practice integrity. Because people don't want to be around people who don't have integrity.
Hey.
And I think that people know when they deal with Bill Derrick,
Yep.
they know what they're dealing with. And they know they can trust me. And they know when I make a commitment to them, I'm going to do everything I can to fulfill that commitment.
Yeah. Isn't that great? That's just great. Integrity has a lot to do with people, doesn't it? It has a lot to do with relationship, and it has a lot to do with truth and our relationship with Jesus Christ. And when we're founded there, then we have a lot more friends. Hey, Bill, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate having you.
My pleasure, Vince.
Well, that's the show. Thanks for listening. As we close, I want to remind you that we have great content for your men's groups, excellent small group videos, and participant handbooks that will empower the men of your church to lead and equip them to build the men around them. Check it all out at beresolute.org, or just send me a direct email at info@beresolute.org. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast today, but please know that the time that we spent together is absolutely worthless unless you act on it. So do something today by getting off the bench and into the game, and I'll see you right back here next time for another edition of the Resolute Leadership Podcast.